Good evening. Thanks so much for coming out again tonight for the final event of the week, the final evening event of the week. Hard to believe it's gone that fast. What's today? The 10th? June 10th? Thursday, June 10th? Tomorrow's Friday? All right, good. Thank you. That's a big accomplishment for me. But again, thanks for joining us tonight. We have Josip Novakovich and Eileen Myles reading tonight. And before I introduce Josip, our first reader, I just want to remind the workshop participants and the people who are still here from classes, again, come, please get the remainders of the journals tomorrow. I know I sound like a broken record, but there's still some left. And those of you who are taking the workshops for credit, please come see me or Bob or someone tomorrow and make sure you have the proper form so we can get that all squared away before you take off. That's all I can think of. Whatever I forgot, I'm sure Bob will remember. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to welcome Josip Novakovich to be our first reader tonight. It has been so good to have him around this week and to talk with him and to hear his thoughts about things. Josip comes to us from Montreal, Canada, and is originally from Croatia. Among all of the many little nuggets of wisdom and humor that I'm glad to have drawn from him this week, there's one thing that stands out in particular. During the fiction panel the other day, someone asked him something to the effect of, basically, how do you publish, or how do you keep up your momentum and your confidence and your, how do you handle the difficulty and the reality of publishing? And he gave this really interesting, down-to-earth little anecdote about, well, he said, if you were a shoemaker and you wanted to sell your shoes, you wouldn't just make one shoe and go to the market and try to sell that one shoe. That would be ludicrous. You don't just make one pair of shoes. Just like that, a writer has to write a lot of things before they can expect to do something with it. You don't just write a piece and expect something magically to happen with it. So basically, he spoke to the hard work and determination that it requires to be a writer who does something with what they write. So with that in mind, I would like to welcome to the stage Josip Novakovich.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Bob and Samrat, for having me here. And I thought I would read something new. It's the best way to edit a piece, to see when people get bored. And then it's okay, I'll cut that section out and I'll cut that one. Except everybody says that I couldn't see the audience, so I wouldn't actually see when you were bored. So that would be pretty useless. And not only that, you're pretty nice people. I don't want to bore the hell out of you. But I do want to comfort you. There are enough boring parts here anyway in this story. Before the reading, usually I say, wow, this is more boring than I remember. So I start crossing. Except today it was too hot and I was too lazy. I didn't cross out enough. So the title is Spleen. And it's a woman's voice. So you can just imagine that I'm a woman who has smoked a lot of cigarettes and sort of has a shot voice. Anyway. When I found out that a Bosnian family had moved into our neighborhood just across from my place, I was thrilled. To me now, it didn't matter whether the neighbors were Muslims, Croats, or Serbs from Bosnia. The main thing was that they were Bosnian, that they spoke the language I loved and hadn't heard in a while. Perhaps I could have gone home, but I didn't trust it. My hometown was in Republika Srpska. Under the NATO supervision, it was already possible to go back, and probably nothing bad would have happened, but I still couldn't see sleeping there without streetlights around. I recall the events before my leaving. Some people had already fled from my hometown because they heard that the Serbian army was coming, but I didn't believe they would bother me. If they were targeting people ethnically, I thought I was safe since I was half Serb, half Croat. Then one night somebody knocked on the door and shouted, "Open up, police!" I looked through the door and saw two men with masks over their heads. That's not what you'd expect police to look like. What would police need to talk to me about? Anyway, I went to the kitchen, took a sharp, mid-sized knife, put it in my sleeve, and waited while they tore the door down. I hid in a clothes cabinet. The two thugs went through the house, overturning the tables, smashing the china, and they shouted for me to come out. One walked into the basement and the other opened the toilet. At that moment, I sneaked out of the closet, walking barefoot. But he saw me and ran after me and knocked me down. The knife slid out of my sleeve and fell on the floor, but he must not have heard it. He tore my clothes off. Meanwhile, the other man downstairs kept smashing the jars of jam and pickled peppers. And suddenly he quieted because he probably had found the wine. The thug pinned me to the floor, and as I tried to throw him off my body, he whacked my head against the boards. I'm pretty strong, and I think I could have thrown him off if he hadn't whacked my head each time that I moved. I thought migraines were the worst headache you could have, but this was worse. It hurt deep inside, and I was dizzy, as though my brain had turned around my skull and was wobbling. He slid a little lower and sat on my thighs. "You must help me to get it hard," he said. "I don't want to." "You must. Here, take it in your hand." I did with one hand. "It's awkward like that. Can I sit up?" I asked. "No problem." I sat up sideways, felt around on the floor for the knife, grabbed its handle, and without hesitation stuck it into him. I wanted to get him in the middle of his abdomen, but I missed and stuck on his side, the left side. It didn't seem to go in deep. He shrieked and didn't react when I leaped to the side and ran straight outdoors. And so I ran into the hills naked in the cold November night. I nearly froze, turned blue, and didn't know where to hide except in the Benedictine monastery on top of the hill. I broke into the chapel in the middle of Matins. It was still dark. The poor men crossed themselves, hid their faces, prayed in Latin, and I heard one word which I liked, misericordia. But one of them said, "Brothers, don't be silly, help her." He took off his brown garments, put it over me, and stood there in his striped shirt and long johns. Anyhow, so from the monastery she goes to Split and eventually ends up in Cleveland. Okay, well, actually, no, don't laugh about that, because somebody told me that everybody that comes from Ohio or ends up in Ohio, and especially those who don't believe it and laugh at that prophecy, they're especially in danger of ending up in Ohio. Now, I know it happened to me. I was laughing at the joke, and then I spent 8 years in Cincinnati. Anyway, but this is Cleveland, and she goes on. "I've always wanted to be a homebody. I never got the joy of travel. Nearly the only aspect of travel I enjoyed as a kid was the homecoming. I'd rush to the side of the train as it crested the hill before my hometown, seeing the first glimpse of the church steeples and the minaret and the old castle made me happy. So it's all the more miraculous to me that I have become a world traveler, an American. But I like my workplace, a bank. Next to it there is a restaurant, Dubrovnik. I don't need to go into it, but just knowing it's there comforts me. It's a bit of homeland. And just recently, I did go into it with my fellow bank teller, a Polish woman, Maria. We walked up the stairs into the restaurant and entered a tobacco cloud. The guests in the stinging smoke gave me an impression that a group of angels was noisily resting in the cloud. Since I couldn't make out many details, I saw only the silhouettes blowing smoke from their cigarettes, feeding their blue cloud, as if the moment the cloud vanished, they would all fall to earth. I like to imagine that the gathering was a choir of smoked angels, but I knew it was unlikely that any of them were angels. Most were recent immigrants from Herzegovina and Croatia, and some had participated in the war. As I savored the soft chicken paprikash, Maria said, "You know, a Bosnian family moved into our neighborhood right next door to you. Have you met them?" No, I had no idea anybody moved in. They're having a grill next Saturday. They invited me and come along. Okay, so now they're at the party. The green backyard of my neighbors was enveloped in the grill smoke. I enjoyed the smell of coal. That is one aspect of American culture we from the Balkans quickly adapt to. Grilled cutlets and sausages, although we add our variant to it, cevapi, spicy mixed meat. The boombox on the windowsill played folk music, the kind that used to bore and bother me, but now made me feel at home. You know, accordion bass and a wailing voice. The bold host wore a green outfit as though he were in a hospital, and when I asked him whether he was a doctor, he said that I work at Mercy Hospital as an X-ray technician. That's a great job, isn't it? How many hours a week counts as full-time? 24. So you have lots of free time, nice. It could be better. I studied to be a doctor in Sarajevo, did well, but wasn't wise. I participated in a protest against Tito, had to go to prison, couldn't go back to university afterward. So I had no choice but to emigrate. Have you met my nephew yet? He pointed out a man who was facing away from us. The man turned around, balding like his uncle, with a wide, bony face and teeth unusually white for someone from our parts. They were also white-spaced, and maybe that's what explained their survival. He looked familiar, but the more I looked at him, the more I was sure that I was wrong. That is just it. Many people from my native region can give me that feeling of familiarity, even without my ever having met them. In my hometown, they'd all be strangers to me, but the familiar kind of stranger, and that is what I imagined I was responding to. He came over to me and asked where I was from and what I did, the kind of questions you would not expect from someone from our native region, but from an American. When I told him I worked for a bank, he grew excited. I need to buy a house. Can you give me a mortgage? What's the best rate you can offer? Well, that depends on the credit rating. Credit rating. How would I have any? But I have a refugee status in the Lutheran church backing me. And I just got a job as an electrician. Ah, well, you must be smart then. A dumb electrician would be dangerous. Oh, you're right about that, but maybe I'm a dumb and brave electrician. Have you ever gotten a good shock? Of course, who hasn't? Even you have an electrical shock story to tell, probably. True. Bank, he said, isn't it boring to work there? Not in the least. There are many Croats and Slovenes there, but no Bosnians. So it must be boring. It's always interesting with our people. They're still to mind our people. One day a man paid for his entire new house in cash. He opened a brown suitcase. It was full of $10 bills. Nothing but $10 bills. Why don't you write a check? I asked him. Can't trust checks, he said. And why only $10 bills? Can't trust no $100 bills. Too many Italians. They're all mafioso, and and that's what they do. They print fake bills. $10, the best. He was an old Croatian car dealer. The motto of his dealership was honest cars for honest cash. You wouldn't imagine that someone completely stuck in the cash economy could become rich, but that man did, bringing $500,000 just like that. Dragan laughed. Our people are such hopeless hicks. All of us are peasants. He kept standing closer and closer, and I moved a little away from him, and so we kept moving around the yard. I was aware of it, and he apparently wasn't. Perhaps I had adopted the American subconscious concept of personal space, which is about an arm's length. So nobody can touch you or hit you without you getting a chance to duck. It's also convenient because at that distance, anybody's bad breath would dissolve in the air, and you wouldn't have to suffer it. And likewise, you wouldn't have to worry that if you had morning breath, you'd make people uncomfortable breathing in your bacteria. I like this Anglo-Saxon personal space, but naturally, a fresh arrival from Bosnia wouldn't understand the space and would find it cold and standoffish. But after a while, it occurred to me that he was not so much after a house and mortgage as after me. In the meanwhile, his uncle was retelling Bosnian jokes to Maria, who rewarded him with booming laughter. Well, I don't have a Bosnian joke here, and I'll tell you a Montenegrin joke instead. So sometimes you would actually need to insert stuff in stories. It's well, like this. The Montenegrins are supposed to be lazy, and they have their own gospel. It goes like this: love thy bed as thyself. And Jesus said unto them, don't do anything until I return. Well, just one more. Two Montenegrins are standing on the dock and observing the beauties of the sunset, and one notices that someone's drowning. He says, look, that man is drowning over there, and what are we doing? Just standing. Says the other guy says, you get a point, let's sit down. Anyway, these are the kind of jokes that I say, except they're mostly Bosnian jokes, and that's why the war took place. Either there was too much offense, but even worse, people ran out of jokes, and then this, when you can't take a joke, then you do something else. Okay, so it goes on. We ate cevapi then. I looked forward to the taste, but the meat was overgrilled. Our hosts were too eager to talk, and so they forgot the meat. Actually, since we didn't used to have refrigerators in the Balkans, we customarily overgrilled meat to make sure to kill all the bacteria. Only here did I, for the first time, see people eating bloody meat, calling it rare and medium rare. With us, there was only one way: well done. At any rate, while I loved the smell of grilled meat, I couldn't eat the charcoal. Instead, I drank the red wine Dragan offered, and it was grgic, deep red and purple, tasting of plums for some reason. Now, both he and I relaxed, and he told me his repertoire of Bosnian jokes. Strangely, though I found many of them funny, I can't remember any of them. Anyway, I agreed to get together with this Dragan for no serious reason other than that I loved speaking Bosnian. We met in our neighborhood beer hall. That's one thing about Cleveland. It has many ethnic neighborhoods, and this was the German contribution. He said, my uncle is a funny cat. Okay, actually, I'll skip that part. It's basically he goes through the hospital pretending to be a doctor and offers people kidney transplants and such. So he got caught. And so Dragan complains about what an idiot his uncle is. And the heroine here answers, how can you speak so badly of him? He takes care of you. I'm not speaking badly of him. Everybody knows that what he's done. It's funny. I think it's sad. And he lost so much money and he pretends to be what he's not. Does that run in the family? What do you mean? Crazy generosity? Oh, well, no, pretending. I don't pretend anything. I did not say you did. I simply wonder whether what he's doing is a family trait. Is that how you talk for fun? Yes, a continued theme, a thread. So, he's your uncle. What are you getting at? He sat up from his chair. My God, I thought you had a sense of humor. Yes, I had it, he said. Okay, mellow out, have a beer. Good idea. 2 Guinnesses, please, he asked the waitress and turned his head. The waitress wore a short skirt and black stockings that went only a few inches above her knees, so there was a stretch of thighs between the hem of the skirt and the stockings. Good body, I said. Guinness has lots of body. She has a good body. You noticed? I noticed you noticing. Oh, here we go again. You're catching me or something? He said, no. I noticed her style. I don't know whether she has a good body, but the style's sexy, I asked. I forgot how difficult our women can be, he said. Now I feel at home. Same goes for me and our men. I do feel at home. That's the point. I wanted to feel like that. And that's why you agreed to come out with me? Yes. It doesn't matter what I'm like, the main thing is that I'm from over there. Oh, it matters what people are like. The beer was foamy and cool and it left a creamy edge on his lips, which he never wiped off right away, but talked like that with the foam on his upper lip. The second round of ale got to my head. The American bars are dark. We kissed in that darkness under the spell of dark ale, or under the excuse of it. He tasted of unfiltered cigarettes, and I liked that. It reminded me of home. Yes, I had kissed a few Americans and non-smoking immigrants who before the kiss regularly chewed mints, so their mouths would be cool, slightly antiseptic. Well, the 3-4 times I had kissed, they went to the bathroom to floss their teeth, no doubt, and to brush them, so you'd get a refurbished mouth. But this was a European kiss, old style, with a nicotine bite to it and an undertone of hot peppers. He must have had feferonki somewhere. The kiss was hotly reminiscent of the old continent, so I closed my eyes and floated into the smoky spaces with Turkish coffee poured from jezva, coppery vessels, and heavy drags on the bottom from which old peasant women read fortunes. Upon drinking a cup, you'd have a few coffee grains left in your mouth to chew on, to chase around your mouth with your tongue, and that is what the kiss now felt like a grainy chase. A gritty and biting kiss. I stretched my neck and he kissed it, his 5 o'clock whiskers scratching me like a rasping paper. But I liked that sensation of hurt. We went to my home and continued our erotic pursuit so impatiently that we had not fully undressed. I still had my skirt on and he had his shirt and tie, though everything else was off. I pulled him to me by his tie, the red tie, and the tightening grip of his collar plus the labor of lust made his face all red. And blue veins popped on his forehead and kept changing their courses like overflowing tributaries of a river, seeking the most urgent way to the sea. I wondered why this man trusted me and let me pull the tie. I felt a sudden impulse to strangle him. Inexplicable but tempting. Instead, I let go of the tie and loosened it. He panted with his mouth open, baring his teeth, and again he kissed my neck and bit it, perhaps playfully, but still that shot a wave of fright through my blood. I bit his ear. We kept biting each other as though we were two wolves, steadying each other in the playful grip of teeth. Our lust affected our bones and came from our bones, and flesh was in the way. The bones of our love made us both sharp, not dreamy and sleepy as I used to be in lovemaking, not floating in the delicacy of sensations, but aggressively alert. It was as though we wanted to destroy each other. And that did result in a sensation, the kind you have when your life is in question, jumping off a cliff in a deep azure bay, skiing downhill and hitting a bump that suspends you. There was an extraordinary undercurrent of hatred in our sex, and it shocked me. I was shuddering. At first I thought in the premonition of an orgasm, but no, from the cold fright. He let go of my neck, and his tie tickled my stomach and breasts as he rocked back and forth. I was nearly strangling him again, holding on to his tie like a friar in the church bell. To the church bell, while he was smashing his pubic bone into mine in the rhythm of the church bell, and I did indeed hear the ringing in my ears. If the bones were to break, I wasn't sure it would be mine that would go first. Love and lust aren't synonyms, as everybody knows, and hate and lust aren't antonyms, as I found out. Love is usually safe, someone there who can help you, who can spread his arms to keep you from falling, and in that sense, it's antithetical to the sensation of total collapse and abandon that the most intense orgasms are made of. Hatred, however, helps along that delicious sensation of destruction and self-destruction. That is what I realized as I was coming in this sea, not of joy, but of terror. I would not have thought like that if he had not been making love and hate in our sex, and if hate had not prevailed. I slid my hands under his shirt and touched his stomach. His stomach twitched like a horse's flank when bitten by a horsefly. His skin was smooth and soft. That surprised me because his neck's hairs stuck out above the collar of his shirt. When my hands roamed further, he gripped them and put them back. "That tickles," he said. "So, tickling's good. You can tickle me, if you like." I touched him again, and he twitched and lost his erection. That was just as well. We had survived several hours of passion, and both of us sighed, perhaps with relief, perhaps with the contemplation of the unsettling nature of our collision. Even after he was gone, I sat in amazement at what had transpired, and the animosity which hung mustily in the air as a war of different body vapors. His sweat and my sweat, his garlicky, mine olivey, his sugary, mine salty. After he was gone, I wondered why he had kept his shirt on, and that is how I went to sleep. I woke up, certain I had an enlightening dream, like that by a chemist who had a vision of a snake eating its own tail, which was the solution for the circular structure of benzene or whatever it was, and is forever. Now in my dream, Dragan appeared in a black t-shirt. I asked him, "Why don't you take it off?" "I can't." "I will make love to you only if you take it off." "I'd rather not." So I undressed and teased him, and when he took off his t-shirt, I saw a brown scar on the left side under the ribs in the spleen area. The scar paled, then blushed and became angry red. Drops of blood slid out of it and went down his flank. "Give me back my shirt," he said right away. I thrown it behind the bed. I don't know where it is. "Find it." By the time I took mercy on him, though I thought I had no reason to do it, and wanted to hand him his shirt, he fell on the floor in an oily red puddle. Blood kept coming out of him, and the furniture floated, and my bed turned into a sinking boat. I shrieked and woke up with the echo of it from the attic and the basement. The whole house was empty with the aftermath of my shriek. I went to the bathroom. The floor was dry. I brushed my teeth. My gums weren't bleeding. I looked into my eyes. They were bloodshot. I had believed in my dreams, but I also doubted them. I had all sorts of dreams. In some, I had lost all my teeth, and when I woke up, they were still in my jaw. We were supposed to meet again the following evening after my work. I dreaded it. I would not answer the door. I would turn all the lights off and pretend I was not there. When 8 o'clock approached, I grew terrified that a man would not come, and he would know I had frightened him. I have to skip. His uncle Dragan's uncle gets arrested in the meantime for doing more shenanigans, pretending to be a doctor. And anyhow, soon the doorbell rang. I let Dragan in. This time he was not formal. He wore a black t-shirt, just like in my dream. He brought in red carnations and a bottle of Eagle Peak Merlot. I turned on the music, Mahler's Fifth. Some of the funeral chords in Mahler's music gave me chills. So this was masochistic of me in all the redness and blackness to have these jarring notes in minor keys. "You like that music?" he asked. "Love it." "Why not play some folk music?" "Later. This is good for a slow start." We have been anything but slow, and we are way past the start. I've never heard a man complaining about getting to bed too quickly. I'm not complaining, but then maybe I could if you let others sleep with you so quickly. How many were there before me? Oh, nobody else has been so special to me. Let's see. Poor uncle of yours. Why did they take him? How do you know? I'm a good neighbor. I saw it through the window. God spare us from watchful neighbors. Seriously though, my uncle is totally insane. He went around the kidney ward injecting morphine into the patients. He kept repeating, "There's too much pain in the world, too much pain." Well, he's right about that. That's kind of charming. Well, it would be if the drugs weren't an additional stress on the kidneys. If he'd done it in the orthopedic ward, maybe nobody would have complained. But what he did was dangerous. I'm ashamed of him. Well, he meant well, and probably the patients were in pain and felt better afterward. Maybe he knows better about it all than we do. I think it's touching. Dragan chuckled. That gave me the creeps. Or maybe a particularly well-placed dissonance in Mahler gave me a chill. And if it didn't, it catalyzed it. As though he understood precisely what went on in my spine, he repeated, You sure you like that music? He smiled, sitting in a slouchy posture. He didn't look dangerous, but almost amiable, low-key, not like an alpha dog, but a beta sitting at a fireplace with his tail curled. Above his t-shirt and inside it, he massaged his pectoral muscle slowly, sensually. It seemed strange to me that a man would caress himself like that. It was surprising and slightly arousing. Out of nervousness, I drank half the bottle, and soon we were kissing on my queen-size bed. I grew excited, partly because this had a forbidden quality to it. I had forbidden it to myself, and now I was transgressing. I had, of course, planned to get to bed to check out his car, but I had not wanted to be aroused. Under the pillow, I had a kitchen knife, just in case. I know that sounds like some praying mantis kind of thing, and if so, maybe the man should have his last wish, without knowing it was his last, to make love. I didn't mind the idea. In a way, I almost wanted him to become aggressive and dangerous so I could do it. Not that I wanted to do it, but the temptation flashed in my mind. As we made out, I slid my hand under his t-shirt to his navel. He pushed my hand away and said, I'm ticklish. I know you said that, but you don't mind being touched elsewhere. Only my feet and my stomach are ticklish. I touched his neck and slid my hand downward, but the t-shirt was too tight from any angle to go further. What are you trying to do? You like collarbones? Collarbones are my weakness. Why don't you take off your shirt? Out of vanity, I don't want you to see how my stomach sags, how my chest hairs are getting gray, and how deep my innie is. Well, now that you have told me all that, what's there to hide? I know what to expect. It can get only better. Let's fully undress. Isn't it funny we haven't been naked yet? We have screwed each other's daylights and haven't seen each other naked. All right, but turn off the lights. I thought about it. I wanted the light to examine him, but I could examine him anyway. I would let my fingers do it. I turned off the overhead light. Good, that will be romantic, I said. I'll light the candles then. I took out half a dozen candles and lit them. He pulled off the t-shirt, his red underwear and his soccer-style socks, which went almost to his knees. For his age, he was in good shape. His stomach didn't sag. He had lied. I had candlelight coming from all the corners of the room, and bathroom light came through a crack and spread wider and wider on the floor, onto the wall, but that was not enough to see his car. So as he lay down, I put my hand on his flank. He shrank and his stomach twitched. Just let go, relax. All right, I guess you know technique. I felt all around, touched his ribs, below them, and I could not believe my fingers. There was no scar. What? Could my dreams have been wrong? It was horrible to think that I had found that man and that he was under my fingertips. But suddenly it was even more horrible to think that this was not the man. And the other one was at large, who knows where. And if he was not dead, how would I find him? Why should I want to find him? Why didn't I feel relief? I could have been overjoyed to be with a man who made love so vigorously. I could have a boyfriend. Maybe even a new family. That wouldn't be outlandish at my age, mid-30s. I was in such a state of shock that right away I quit the foreplay. I can't do it, I said. Why not? Dark thoughts have crossed my mind and they won't go away. What are your dark thoughts? When I told him in detail the attempted rape and how I fled, except I didn't tell him about the knife and the wound. I said I knocked the guy down with a candelabra. What a strange word. Must be Arabic. Okay. that is admirable, that you had so much courage to do that, he said. But why would you think of that right now? Why admirable? What choice did I have? Do you know what happened to the guy? No, and I don't think I want to know. Do you? Why would I? What a question, Dragan said. I have no idea. Did you think that even before? I did not answer. I decided not to worry about anything. I could worry, yes, I was tempted. It flashed in my mind that if this was not the first man, this could be the second man, the one who went to the basement to drink wine. But then how did I know that one drank wine? Simply because he grew quiet? Well, this one certainly liked wine. But then, what's so unusual about that? Oh no, I decided I shouldn't keep having paranoid thoughts. They had to stop somewhere. I was wrong once, I could keep being wrong. We drank more Eagle Peak. He'd brought 2 bottles, it turned out, and kept one in his laptop briefcase. Let's shower together, I said. Maybe we'll make love. Maybe not, but let's shower. He obeyed and followed me. I soaped up our bodies and saw in foam, in hot water, we washed, our hairs dripping, our eyes stinging from soap, gasping from exhaustion and lack of air in the steamy cubicle, in the trapped cloud of our own making. He tried to grip me and I clasped him, but we kept slipping out of each other's hold. The evasive slipperiness of our bodies made me lose the sense of balance so much that I enjoyed the illusion of exquisitely falling through the clouds. Okay, that's it.
Eileen Myles is not my younger sister. Despite everything you might guess, we just both have great hair. I actually met Eileen last summer in the wilds of New Hampshire, but I met her 15 years ago in a book sitting on that table called Cool for You, which I bought at a bookstore on Valencia Street in San Francisco. She is here from New York. She is here from Boston. She is here to read. Please welcome Eileen Myles.
He actually is my brother, and I don't know why he keeps denying it in public. It's so humiliating. I thought Josip was going to cross his name out and announce me. I was like...
I was tempted. Yeah.
And I promised no journeying. I was taking all these tips last night from Caleb. I thought it was okay. So I'm gonna read some poems, and then I'm gonna read from this this novel. But the novel is about being a poet, so don't feel abandoned, poets. I'm with you. So this one's called Facebook. Cold after a swim, glad to be in. It's a status report. What do you want? When I first went on Facebook, I thought a 2-line poem every day, and I did it once, that's like a poet idea, a great idea. About Mary. I feel infinity seeing a band of white flesh against your dark blue shirt in the night. Later, when you turned the AC on because it was hot, it made it quieter then. A little bit of fat helps you sleep. I thought, eating my yogurt, staged the room for the photographer, and now I'm in it. Have you anything crusty like your poem about dancing all night in the 80s? I never danced all night in the 80s. It was a story, and you never recorded. Admit it, I'm not in the movie. Case closed. Maybe they were richer, it worked better, were men, or something like that. I'm not done with you yet, playing with your bib, no apron. In the store, when you changed your mind, I thought you had taken mine into account. Change it back. Which mind was a system isn't so much closed as sinister. No, I mean conceptual. A dog gets the wrong idea from repeated indulgence. I don't need to pay $45 an hour to know that I know it. You prefer a friendship with her. That's not wit. My words are big and wide. Twice in the same week, I considered it my big mistake. You've got to be brave, or a better word for not knowing what's to come. adjusting to that moment, or all of them. I refuse to do any more. She wrote it so young, and she had a funny accent. I will never again illustrate my widening point with a detail from your ex's Facebook photos. I will stop it here by saying I'm sorry and crossing S has a mustache. If I say I'm a failure, I am, say, no, be enormous if it's not for some incredible future, everyone's and not your kids, because they're yours, especially if I borrow them once in a while. As many rounds of this as I can take if I put more space around each night or day, or just everything minute, other things, chairs, I move the chairs around and make it roomier. The words kept moving around and not in the terminal, but in the home. It ate all night. I remember you in Ireland. I thought you had it. Everybody had. The amazing stories about translators that they speak across peoples, all of them. I said, I am recommending this as the most fun ever, to animate the way another saw headlights or sound, to see a pattern and enter their body. I'm the galvanizing. I'm the animating kind. I'm the monster. I shall cry till the end of my life. If I didn't stumble, you would have really clapped. But I wonder if it should be till the rest of my life. That's bad English. Which I'm having a fight with my publisher about right now. This novel is in galleys, and I'm telling you, it's hell. This poem is called D.H., and I guess it's sort of D.H. Lawrence, or Harry Dodge backwards, if you know Harry. Politically speaking, look at this, a word at a time on my knee, looking forward to a picnic with my friends in the afternoon in their car. But no, the climate is such that I never arrive. Stayed on the Stairmaster one more time. I'm depressed all my life. Enrage the man behind me as we plow into the bright gray light. It's evening here, bright as a flea. As I enter the history of intellectuals who escaped that to land in this eternal sun, burning what's left of the earth, never meeting anyone. When I became a California college professor, I wrote that. I tried to pretend I was in the 40s and 50s or the 40s or the 30s and running away from Hitler, but I was just in San Diego. Snowflake. There's no female in my position. There's no man. Wow, there's a raccoon on the tail of the plane, and there's no one seeing that now but me. And there's no one close enough right in here to see the further drawing, stripes or buildings, the bricks of the world. I wonder what I'll say about Sadie, and I wonder if they are still living in that state and if they hate me for moving her furniture out and putting it in storage. I walked past that restaurant where I was so mad, could have broke the glass. I'm the only one in the mood to remember this, me living. And who threw a snowball against the glass and scared me in my seat, so hot with rage? Why am I dry, freezing? I must go home. I saw a rose in the heart of the year, 2001, everything turning, dog, rosehead, a wheel of love, but I was so mad. I locked it up and took the key and lived for that moment, snowflake. I wasn't there, not even me, when she put in the key and it wouldn't turn. The weather. For the most compelling birthday party I'd been to in a while, I bought 3 cards. Thinking that I heard a wet and splashing sound, 3 pipes spurting water standing in the park quite near to the corner I meet you on, I go past. I don't know what tonight will deliver, the t-shirt you'll wear, an attachment I'm proud of not knowing you again, like that water, I've lived here for a while. What do you think I should say in these cards? I'm as excited about this moment as I was in the beginning of our relationship. I keep seeing women in the street who resemble my mother, her wide Christian face. Is it an abomination to put that in a poem to my lover, not so much to you as with you in it, in the same world of the card, the train ride into Brooklyn, cars turning, skateboards splash hard, the plastic of the wrong side hitting the pavement? All you see are cops, cars in their vans prowling like a city full of meth, or a whole middle of a country like a split. Every woman your age, cute. Every woman my age, wounded and glisten. The poem totally freaks my girlfriend out. Your name. It's very hard to hunt from indoors, I'll say that for you. And text is at best an attenuated warning. Sound has a range of many desires, not just map. I subscribe to the Grandpa Bunny Bunny school of theory. I mean, Genesis to write is a form of accounting, an approximate promise in the sunny mouth of time. A horny bet, or else hunters lolling around the fire. What did you get? How can I avoid it, this making a speech? Long-limbed and maybe in July? Aren't we lucky to have captured each other in this hideous neon light? Thank you, Bob, for inviting me. And thank you, Workshop. You guys are great. 2008 for Emma. We have our research to live for. T-shirt. The bed not so much made as simply closed. That's to a young woman who killed herself. No excuse. The crows were never here. I don't remember them, and you could put your hand in the water and hit a fish or two. Now you gotta go look. She was the first one from India to outer space. I don't remember those trees, and I don't remember it being so hot. But winter used to be really cold. Do you remember that? I know to hold back tends to keep the thing going, but I don't. I like it kind of square, all there. We played the reading at Gallery 6. Maybe it was his description of it. We read it in class. Some things get saved. I like to return. I like the farmer who studied science, came home and made it work. He was Japanese. He stabbed himself right in the chest, like Eliot, not Kurt. The two kinds of death are different. Of all the songs you ever wrote, you wrote some. Guy in the airport read about farming. He had big, thick thighs, and he looked like a businessman. And that's what farmers look like today. He was trying to get better, to improve his lot. This immense restlessness on the plane. Remembering Ray thought the birds had changed and something else. And Peter said the fish were practically everywhere, and now they're not. I don't know myself, and that's a sin. I can hear you creaking. This one's called Chris. I told my therapist about the fire, I guess in New York. They told the landlord there were 5 of them, but there was 11. Practically all of them died. There was a picture of one woman crying. Some were her kids. It's impossible to know where the fray of bright red cloth came from on the grass. If the power's off for a second, it's fun. Better is the second it all starts coming on, fans whirring, radio, everything. We landed ourselves on a grassy slope with a view of the freeway, the rushing sound of it, her familiar black back with the shaved part around her ass. A hot spot, her white muzzle turns, watching. Guiding her away from the family with my knee, coffee in my hand on the telephone, the family watched their baby, tiny and red, wandering. Pray for my dog. I feed her treats, guide her to another angle. Surely it's layered, the skin of day chirping. Fanny, you're maternal. Well, I have 3 kids. They told me to talk to Jesus, which I thank for my interiority. They told me to guard Jesus for 1 full hour, in which I began to seize time by waiting. The bird is like something you squeeze, squeaking. Give us facts. My home never burned, and I'm one. The loss would be minor. How big would I get as I turn the pages, measuring the size of the dead? I follow her shaking head. Next quarter, I intend to teach them everything, whereas this quarter, I taught them to grow up in a mess. I did. The year is new. Questions? I may not have the time for all of this, but A, I enjoy the slap of my flip-flops on the stair. And though my name is not Roxanne, I remember when I would have liked that, like a girl playing witch in her yard with the jars and spider webs and the world was misty. A, almost took it all. Even if I'm not Roxanne, I know you like my voice in the dark, and I did too. B, rabbits like to be up and around at twilight and dusk, exactly when I get scared. Did stripes come from any place else in nature but a changing sky and a sad parent fills a room, and before a child can think, she feels it too? C, the tree. There was a moment of light before I got in the car. The tree was that green that holds up the procession of this. It is the world. D, and now I will drive home. I looked at a lamppost just for a sec. Could Eileen ever be Roxanne? No. My box. In terms of design, one box is colored orange. The one you want, it always is, and sits in the bathroom of anyone's house because that's what she wants. It's choosing that wakes things up. I wondered how long all that I needed and encountered here would come like a wave, not the shake, but the after effects. And this box did say there was a way to see this thing alone. July called it calculus. What is, comes in boxes. What is not, comes in waves, the dots between. Mountains surround us, and I say they are more marvelous than the sea, way overhead. I like flying over them, too, thinking that is home, these crazy bumps. When we drive into them tomorrow, it won't be bam. It means swirling up on the edge of a cup, and if you don't watch me like a hawk, I won't be scared. I want to be loved like a sunbeam. That is, it comes across the room or the ocean. You know the way I drive. I want to lift your fear like a bonnet and kiss your living face. Here, this is mine. Don't misunderstand me. So that was poetry, now some prose. So all you need to know about the prose is that it's a novel called Inferno, a poet's novel, and it follows Dante a little bit. I mean, it follows Dante a lot, kind of. But this section, so one section is about the hell of being a female poet, and that's the Inferno section. And there's another section that's about purgatory, which is like the career of the poet. But the final section is heaven. And heaven basically tells you how to write a poem, and it also tells you how to become a lesbian. So you think you're there for one, but really you get the other, which keeps happening in this book, you know. So in this part, in my endeavor to tell you how to write a poem, there's a part at the end where I think, oh God, I didn't say this. So it's like kind of, I think the plan is ideally real fast. It tells you everything I know about poetry. So for my workshop, if there's anything we've not covered, you'll get it tonight. Tomorrow we'll just like relax. Would you wear this? She held the T-shirt out to me, pale pink with Jenny Holster truisms rolling down its chest. Abuse of power should come as no disguise. Sleeves gone. No. By 1990, everyone was dying. I had a big car, a long, ugly LTD somebody painted with house paint, 40. Eleanor gave her to me. I couldn't really drive. I drove Tom to the beach in it, and I scared him on those big metal things in Brooklyn. I guess ramps. I had just gotten the dog. I was thinking we should move to San Francisco. The car starts breaking down. I couldn't afford to fix it. The dog was too young, so I left the car in the street and stayed home. Eleanor never forgave me. She walked past it every day till the city took it. She loved that car. Sydney asked me to write a score for her. You mean like music, I asked? No, poems, she smiled. Poems for you to dance to. I wrote some stuff and I gave it to her. I stayed for this. I got myself a yellow bow tie and sat in the audience, almost like I was a composer, but I was one of those guys who wrote lyrics, the book. I met a girl, Vivian. Apparently she told Sarah she had been dreaming of me after seeing me in Orland getting up from a table and adjusting my knees. That's how she described it, like I was this old machine. My legs were leather. In a matter of months, we got together, and then all the death began. First Tim, then on and on. My sadness was a bell, and she was in there with me, though I'm not sure she knew it. She was a dark-haired girl, sweet, not easy, but smart, and she wrote poems, too. It was extremely bottomy sex for me, because I was a lazy asshole, and she was a complete power monger, which was fun. The place I found was carved out of sadness and sex, and to write a poem there, you merely needed to gather. There would be days in which feelings were so externalized that you just behaved like a painter, a kid with deep pockets, bringing the lavender home. The poem was a grid that swayed, and moving through it, you just picked things up and hung them on the grid, all the while singing your broken heart out, humming. It was a deep, deep gray. In that place, and poetry most of all is a mastery of places, not the world, but the weather of the states that form in your life, and what you read, and how things were taken, and what came back. Each of these series of occurrences creates a season. The seasons grow huge till they die, and in each you create a new sense of what a poem is in relationship to the space of your mind, heart, that kind of substance. It's the Bhav of the world you are in. In my courtship or early love with this girl, this is when it really ended, I went to India, and I kept thinking and thinking about India after the trip. I finally understood that I was Western. I had been thinking at the bottom of reality, everything was that, deep down that the world was Catholic and even white, and it wasn't. Suddenly, I didn't have a tool. I was a baby. I came back and began researching this thing, certainly wondering about Hinduism as a part of the thought, because one day walking in a temple, all I felt was bad. I didn't have permission to be in there at all. I was overwhelmed to find that child in me, a frightened little Catholic. Seemed to me this couldn't go away, but I needed to move around. I needed to move it around. I learned that a bhakti yogi enters a room full of people and methodically moves this thing up and down by telling stories and getting everyone to speak in unison and chant and sing. It's like an invisible barometer he's affecting, the quality of people's togetherness in the room. That's the bhav. I felt now that that was my job, to move it. I'm also saying that a life is a bhav, a day has one. A poem is charting that. Perhaps giving the sweetest documentation of what anything is ever becoming. So a book of poems, for instance, over a short period of time, a year or two, explains the bhav of that period, and the poet approaches the explanation through form. She invents one that is most economically true to how reality occurred to her at that time. So, I came to understand that I was now explaining the world to a sad child, which was me. And I would find her things and try to make a story for her out of what I picked up. I think I was starting to understand a poem as an allegory, a mysterious formula. And I was getting good at reading the things I picked up, mostly because I was very invested in making them sound good, not too false. Not trapping the poem in an oppressive order, but keeping the rhythm fairly close. It always needed to be able to turn around, to step out, to stop. The American language, if you ever noticed, is entirely violent, so you can't go writing these pretty poems that lull and are devoid of the upsetting truths of the world. My poem would often simply stop. When I didn't leave the city, I stayed here and I made piles of things out of the sounds of basketballs thunking, elements of war. One in Iraq was happening. I flew right over it on my way to India. Tiny leaves falling on octagonal bricks on the sidewalks at Avenue A. I remember Bob Perelman saying something about how we had to have gods that we told stories about, and that notion hopped right into one. It was very complete. The world was coughing information up in record time. I used all of it. The sweep of upstate New York where the girl went to school, the buildings and lawns and fruit stands. My experiment was emptying out now, and I wrote it to the end. She even went to Russia with me at the end of our thing, and she was leaving first, so she demanded I write a poem before she left, and I did. And then we broke up. It hadn't ended totally, of course. It ended so badly that it didn't stop. It disrupted my entire order. It ended the meaning of things. I just always thought the world was list. And now my list was broken. I was dead. I remember a world going all Cubist one morning when I was barely awake. I had sublet my apartment and I came back early. I was moving from place to place, which was nice. It extended the trip. One morning, the pieces just fit differently, like something happened in my head. Rather than being sad, I had an ache. I bled. Myra gave me a book called The Passion of Rumi. It told the story about him as a moderate college professor in Turkey with a family, and some dirty saint came to seduce him and drag him into the presence of love and passion. He ruined Rumi's life, and some friends of his actually went and killed the guy, but it was too late. Rumi wasn't Rumi anymore. He probably changed his name. We don't even know who the guy is. This made sense to me to completely and utterly submit to the complete passion of the loss, not even of the girl who was small and pretty wrecked herself, but whatever I had been building, whoever I had known myself to be, and however I felt myself known in the eyes of the world, that person was done. It was hard not to die now, to take the easy way out and actually be dead, but instead I saw it was time to stop counting, to stop regarding the world as a list, and to consider existence and writing a poem as a matter of devotion, an expression of desire. It probably sounds like I had been there already, but for one thing, I had been drunk many years before when I came out all over Rose, and I only understood desire with my mind. Now I went on a little rampage in the world, standing at a party with a drink and stealthily moving the conversation over to sex, and if she saw red, it was red, and we immediately went out and had sex. I had no idea this was possible, that women were as easy as men. I mean, I had known it over time, but never all at once. I realized I just had to establish a common ground and we could go have sex there. This wasn't entirely passion, but it was sex, and I needed to be as incredibly dirty and abandoned as possible in order to stay alive. This piece of passion that I held, a pounding in my body, was my slim candle, my connection to the world. I don't recall writing any poems then. The whole thing backfired in about a year, feeling something a little like love with one of these people, a friend, and I pulled back to my corner, and I left to think. I saw Tony Fair in Key Food one day on Avenue A, and I told him my problem, which had now become that I obviously needed to desire one woman, and I was feeling some desire for someone, and I said, what should I do? And he said, proclaim it. He told me about a very beautiful friend of ours, Phil, and how he had once told him exactly what he would like to do to him. He was so gorgeous. Phil laughed. He said, Tony, that's sweet. Tony explained to me that I didn't have to get the person. What you needed to do was announce your feelings. That was the truth. Okay. I tried it on this woman during a walk in the park. She said, that's sweet. I swear that's what she said. I had just found a small baby sock on the ground at the entrance to the park. It was a small red sock with Winnie the Pooh on its side. The sock was still in the shape of the baby foot. I extended it to her. It was warm. In fact, she felt it. She told me that. I actually went to a convention soon after this, and I saw this same woman in the hotel lobby, and she was doing this thing that Ann Waldman also does, which is to bang her hip against mine while she talks. Is this a kind of magnetism? Am I in my body or not? The woman said she was staying in this hotel, the one we were standing in. I told her I was staying with my friends. She looked at me for a moment, and then she wandered off into the crowd. Oh, God, did she mean? I started looking for her, but it was too late. I felt sick. There was also another woman I was dating at this time, and I wanted to announce my passion to her as well. But she kept standing me up. Finally, I sent her a postcard with a dolphin leaping through a flaming hoop on its front. When you wiggle the postcard, the dolphin leapt through. I felt that said it all, and I had just quit jumping for her. Now what? It was Gay Pride weekend, and I had marched down Fifth Avenue with Ann and Heather, and we were all looking for something to do, so we wound up sitting in Mogador watching the people go by. A writer named Gabrielle Glancy came by and sat down. She always had very interesting hair, dark and poofy like an empress. She showed us a flyer she had about a lesbian sex auction celebrating Gay Pride. Would we like to go? We would. It took us a while to decide, but eventually the four of us were walking across town. It was in the Vault, or one of those places, Paddles. A black box with a stage where women were chained and writhing, and the club was a profusion of pens, mangers really, where women in various positions and combinations were engaged in their pleasure. I was kind of disappointed. It seemed that there were legal limits to what you could do. Like there wasn't any fucking. Hard to believe, but it's true. On a table, a long table, there was a beautiful girl with long curly hair lying on her stomach, and her top, someone short and short-haired for sure, was massaging the beautiful girl's asshole with a vibrator and slowly inserted a butt plug with a horsetail sprouting from it. We were all gathered around. The girl was writhing and digging it, and as far as I was concerned, this was the show. People were getting auctioned up on stage, but I didn't see anything I wanted, nor did I think I should be for sale. Over in that corner, were a bunch of people playing with fire. Heather was drawn to that, and she soon had her shirt off, and she had a look of extreme release, and soon her back was on fire. Anne was very excited by this, and they were gone, and I continued to follow the expressions of the girl with the tail, or wandering around, mainly almost ready to go home. The three of us did leave together, and Anne and Heather seemed now they had joined forces, and we all went to one final club with stuff going on downstairs. Cave Canem was what it was. I saw the woman from the convention was there with her girlfriend. We told them about the lesbian sex auction. Somebody we knew was up on stage with clothespins all over her naked body. We didn't say who. Anne greedily described Heather's flaming body. Heather was cool, even opening her shirt a bit on the back so we could see. And what did you do, the woman said, turning to me. Just stand there? At McDowell, I saw a woman who looked like my last girlfriend, but this time her hair was white. I cringed. It was like a negative of Vivian. It was like a film idea. But within days, I had come to the conclusion that whatever the outcome, I would make my desire for her abundantly clear, and I would unleash every excess of power in my body and soul and mind to convince her that my aim was true, and then I would have her. Not forever, just for now. I wanted her in a roomy way. It was the desire at the center of the universe. This was the beginning of the love for which I had not died. I was climbing over the ramparts of my own death. It was the life. I didn't need to marry her was the problem, but that was much later. If passion was a substance, I would say it is dark brown and then blood red. It's like wet grass, tons of it soaked in mud. It's warm and it stinks like shit, and it's unaccountably and endlessly good. It's thick and it goes on for miles, and it isn't so much deep as bottomless, and it holds you in its grip. You never drown. And then it goes. That's all you know. I began to assemble my love in words, poems, and I was an idiot tramping through the woods as I did one night when I fled a casual 3-way or 4-way with her and some other colonists. I wanted her too badly to share. The feeling of these new poems wasn't anything like the sad fog of the past. It was bright white, and it had the power of memory, and I cut scenes like a filmmaker so that in one, I saw a character very much like myself pacing in a winter room, and I spoke to that adult now and was making something, a new 3-part space in memory of that bright room in which I swore to open myself wholly to where I stood with her within that ideal space of possibility. I invited her into my studio one day. Not to seduce her, but to let her smell it, the space, like an animal, and then see that it was safe. I knew in my heart that if she stood there for a moment, later on she would be mine, and she was. What I started to understand was that the poem was made out of time, past, present, and future. It lives in the present, it breathes there, and that's how you let anybody in. I think people can feel this accessing of time and poetry very readily. And as soon as the poem ceases to be about anything, when it even stops saving things, stops being such a damn collector, it becomes an invite to the only refuge, which is the impossible moment of being alive. I lost her after a while, and of course she was never mine. I borrowed her, and she borrowed me from our lives. Yet, in the middle of that, it was a stark white moment of sensational love, and then she returned to her girlfriend and I to New York, and I told anyone who would listen the story of the incredible love, which probably should be a book of its own one day. And while I was waiting for her, maybe to fade, knowing that I needed to let her go, I went down to Cape Cod for a weekend to teach. It was remarkable. That October, the skies were purple and brown, and most of the houses were empty and sat on tight hills tumbling down to the ocean. There was a Zendo in Truro. I got there late, so they wouldn't let me in, but I came back. I loved it all so much. I was at a party in a gallery, and I heard about a house I could rent, so I walked up its back stairs in the pouring rain, and the ocean was right there, and I wrote a check. In a few months, I was living there with my dog. I was writing a book. Because, of course, I hadn't done much work in the summer when I met the girl. But I was in this new place, and I was working now. In the middle of the day, I went for a walk. I loved the winter town, Province town, with all the flashy stores closed. This was the right end of the bargain for me. Cold, and I even saw a woman with a black eye patch coming out of a convenience store the first night, and I knew her instantly from a story I had been told almost 20 years before. She had been very close to a man, Paul Johnson, who I knew in Boston, Eva Nelson's class. He was a lot like Renee. Do we meet the same people again and again? Paul was a queer who had my number. He offered me a number of things I was barely ready to know, but in the centaur tradition of generous men, he taught me. Paul was dead, and his picture was there on her refrigerator. She had this little red fisherman's house, and Paul and she worked together fishing scallops, which is how she had her accident, which he told me about the one time I ran into him in New York. And he was also close to her kid. Paul died when everyone died of AIDS. I learned about it in Nan's video at the Whitney. Someone just casually said it walking down Commercial. Now everyone's dead, Paul Johnson. I felt like I was here to visit him. I remember seeing him so long ago in Cambridge. He was driving a cab. He told me about P-Town, and he just looked manly and large, like that was pleasant for him. It seemed like he was just working. Isn't that throwing your life away, I thought? But in fact, he was fishing and having sex, and then he left P-Town for law school, and he fought for tenants' rights. In college, he was a skinny fag. In college, he was bi. I was standing in the middle of the winter town one afternoon, and the sky was blue, and the air was incredibly white and clear, and there were boats in the water, and it was sparkling everything. The day was clear, glass. I whipped out my notebook, stuck the cap of my pen on its back. I was ready to gather this and that. It would not be the whole text of this day. It would only be fragments. But I didn't begin. It had lately been a problem. The poems didn't make money. You couldn't sell them, so what were they worth? Everybody assigned them this grand art value, everybody that cared at all. I wanted to be famous. Now I thought I would probably get famous and rich from fiction. So why was poetry still good? What was it worth? When I was younger, I watched it become money, and that saved me. It became my work. Now I was just standing in the day. Had I ever considered what this was worth? Just standing in the goods? If the words I plucked out of standing here were incomplete, then probably they were not it. And maybe this was. The thing was existence itself. Rumi had someone following him all day long while he spoke the poem. He was simply in it. I was in it too. The room was the poem, the day I was in. Oh, Christ. What writes my poem is a second ring, inner or outer. Poetry is just the performance of it. These little things, whether I write them or not, that's the score. The thing of great value is you, where you are, glowing and fading while you live. Did I get out of it now? Am I done? Tom and I used to always go to parties together in the 70s. We even lived together for a while in my apartment, and once in my absence, he stretched out all my clothes, my gray beret, doing me. He said he was doing Eileen drag. Tom was a cute blonde and a great friend to have when you're young. He's also pretty good old. We had an agreement then to always go to parties together, both being queer and lonely, and usually impossibly in love. He loved Elio for a very long time. I loved Rose. So we were kind of companions, consummate dates. He came from an acting family and seemed much more comfortable than I in the world. When Tom arrived at a party, he had this booming voice. He greeted everybody by name, ticked them off so they all knew that they were there. He made people happy when he arrived. Tom's here, they'd go. And he knew you, too. However, there was always a point in the night when he'd say, I've got to go, Why, Tom? He would look at me seriously. Are you coming? Well, yes. No, I mean, over the years, I discovered that it was always good to go. I have a hard time knowing what to do about leaving. I'd feel I was ready, and yet I was too embarrassed to draw attention to myself by saying goodbye, so I'd wait or leave with Tom or someone. Sometimes I'd just escape, not saying a word. I tried to get over it, but it never got any better. I think a poem is like a party, because it has to end. You've got to leave eventually. Tom knew. I asked him why he left so abruptly. I'll tell you he said, being manly, miming his father. No, I guess it's him. When I walk into a room, I take a deep breath, and when that breath is gone, I have to go. There's nothing left. The thing is, when you're writing a poem, no matter what you meant to say or do, when the leaving impulse comes, just finish your line and get the hell out of the room. Though sometimes, even if you said too much, you can still go back and fix it. You can actually learn to have grace, and that's heaven. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Josip. We have a lot of people to thank. We have our faculty to thank, and we can only just clap our hands. We have our brave faculty. We have our brave interns. We have Nathan, we have Derek, we have Hank, we have Caleb. And we have Kelly to thank, who actually runs the show. And finally, we really have you, the participants, and those who are visiting tonight, who come and support this conference. And so thank you, and please stick around and have a drink and buy some books, and let's talk about things. Thank you.